Okay, this is the January 20th meeting of the Capital Planning Committee, and it is being live streamed and recorded on WRPS Rockland and can be found on their website at wrps.com. On today's agenda, let me share that. We have the police department and the water department. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. Doug, could you take notes for today because Jeff is going to be a little bit late?
Yep, sure.
Thank you. Okay. Jeff did send out the minutes from the last meeting to everybody. Did everybody get a chance to take a look at those?
Yep.
Were there any questions on those minutes or?
No, they matched up with what we did for the most part.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes from the last meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve.
And a second?
Second.
Okay. Bill?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes, sir.
Doug?
Yes.
And myself. Okay, so those main minutes are approved. And now we can move on to the capital plan requests for the police department. So let me move this over here. Yeah, we'll make it bigger. Okay, this is the standard request that comes in every year for the 2 police cruisers for the $98,000. And did you do the asphalt part of the roof last year, Chief?
No, so you're right. This is our annual request for 2 cruises. As you probably know, we've talked for many years about simply adding this into our budget.
Right.
But for whatever reason, the finance committee and/or Doug Lapp kind of nix that every year. But every year we talk about next year we're going to put it in. So here we are. We're at 98,000 now. I've asked Deputy Chief Uramo to be on this call with us also, in case you have any specific questions about the cruises. He's been handling ordering and equipping the cars for many years now. So we've been going up $2,000 to $4,000 a year each year. And we discussed yesterday whether or not 98,000 was even going to do it this year, because with COVID and as we all know about the chip shortage and everything else, we're having, excuse me, a really hard time just getting the vehicles. He told me yesterday that even if we ordered them right now, we'd be lucky to get them next year, the beginning of next year. So it's a tough time with us getting vehicles and stuff. Again, ideally we'd have this in our budget, but I'd certainly appreciate your support in this annual request. And it really has had an impact over the years in reducing our cruiser maintenance budget and that sort of stuff. So we're finally at a place now that we're going to be trading in the old vehicles when we get the new ones. So we're hoping that in some way that'll be able to offset any additional costs that won't be covered by this 98,000. So that's about it on the cruises. If you want, I'll take any questions on that, but if not, we can go into the roof situation.
What is the lifespan of a cruiser?
So unfortunately, when I took over 16 years ago now, we only had 5 cruises, and I think 3 of them were over 100,000 miles. I think the majority of our cars right now are less than 100,000 miles, actually in the 50 to 70,000 range. And again, the deputy would have those details more than I do, but I would say 5 years max right now. Maybe we'll get 6 or 7, you know, if we start getting into budget crunches again, that sort of thing. But the mileage is going to creep up, and then the maintenance is going to creep up as well.
Right.
The big thing on police cars is you take the mileage and you basically multiply it by 3, which
Well, 'cause
sounds
they're
a
hard,
bit. It
it's
sounds
hard miles.
Yeah, because it's hard miles, number one, and number two, you realize that police cars spend a lot of time idling. You know, if they're monitoring traffic or if they're responding to a scene, the cars will be, so at least a third to a half of the time, those cars are just simply idling. And so that's all engine miles, but it's not showing up on the odometer. So, so we're actually in a pretty good place right now. We've got there only through a lot of hard work and persistence. But you know, we're there. I hate to say that out loud because I don't want people thinking that we don't need them. We certainly do to maintain what we've worked so hard to get to. So.
Don't put it in your jacket. I have it on.
Okay.
How many did you say you have right now in the fleet?
Actually, Deputy and I were just going back and forth on that. Right now, we have about 16 frontline cars. And then in our fleet, we also have 3 motorcycles, one of which is in the shop now because we had an officer in a really bad accident about 3 months ago. We have a couple of speed trailers. We have an animal control vehicle. So it looks like we have a lot more than we do. We've got a couple of detectives cars. We have an undercover vehicle. So we have a total of 24 vehicles or so right now, but frontline are 16 to 18, you know, again, depending if one's in the shop or out of the shop, that kind of thing. And what we've done to make that work and to make the mileage cut down is we used to assign a cruiser to the east side of town, a cruiser to the west side of town, and then 3 shifts a day would rotate through that car. And that was what was killing the mileage and the hours on the vehicles. What the deputy did, and it was a great idea, came up with, is that we've now assigned a vehicle to 2 officers, occasionally 3. But those 2 officers are only assigned to that vehicle. When they work, they'll only take that vehicle. And what we found is that they tend to keep them a lot cleaner. They tend to drive them a little bit nicer, if you will. And our maintenance bills have gone way down because, you know, suddenly they're cleaning the interiors, they're taking them to the car wash, they're driving them nicer and stuff. So it's been a great program for us. And, you know, if we ended up down to, you know, 6 or 8 cars again, we'd be running them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So.
With the cost of the cruisers going up and all of the additional things that have to go into them for safety and everything else, going forward, we still only have like 98,000 on the plan for each year. Deputy, how would you recommend we increase that going forward for the next 3 years, 4 years or so each year?
I think right now we're in pretty good shape. If we need to do it, we would be looking at least maybe a 10% increase as we move forward on it. We should go maybe every couple of years. The vehicles, 2 cars probably go up about $2,500 a piece.
Yeah.
That's because of the cruisers all have laptops inside them. So we have to take that into consideration also. We did make a purchase on those laptops when we moved over to the Holbrook Shrek, which has been a great partner with us. And when I did make the purchase on those, I got a 5-year extended warranty. So they're completely good for the next 5 years. We've been with them for 2, 3, coming up on our 3rd year. So the only cost that I see with those on an increase is to change them from one cruiser to the other. And as like the chief said, we're at a point now where we can turn in cars. So there is some money there that's going to help us in the cost.
All right. So you think that, you know, budgeting or planning the 98,000 each year is a good number to plan, or should
I think
we
so.
maybe bump it up to like 100 or 110?
I think moving forward for
John,
next year,
can
because
I interject for a second?
Sure.
I mean, John, every year we've pretty much gotten 2 cruises, right? On different, I don't know if they were combined, they were usually separate warrants every year, right? You could put them on one warrant this year?
Yes, they've been on a single warrant article each year.
Which is why we never had them on the capital plan, Rich. Because they were under 50, but.
Right, that was,
the
be-
co-
that was
But now the
before.
cost
The
is getting
last
up
ti-
there, like you said, now maybe it's time to put it on the plan, but.
Well,
to up-
it's on the plan. It's been on the plan for a couple of years now, Joe. The last
And-
couple of years, it's been on the plan because it's been one article for $98,000. So what I'm just
All right,
asking
my bad. All right,
is,
all right.
all I'm asking is, do they want to keep it at 98,000 going forward? Or do they want to increase it either next year or the year after to maybe 105 or 110 because of cost increases? I'm just asking for planning purposes.
I think for the
I-
planning purposes, I'm sorry, Jerry, go ahead.
I think ideally for planning purposes, we absolutely should add an increase to it. Only because of, as the chief said earlier, the chip shortage, the cars are getting harder and harder to get, and we don't know how long it's going to take us. So we could literally be into next fiscal year if we don't get a grip on them now and order them before they even come in. So, and we won't know what the price increase is going to be then. So absolutely, if we can add to that, that's going to be a benefit for us.
All right, so why don't
Fine.
so we'll have the 98,000 for this year. And we'll do 98,000 for next year, and then the 3 years after that, we'll bump it up to like 110. How does that sound?
110's a good number.
All right, that sounds good.
I had a quick question. If we bump it to the 110, but they don't use it, but we find it's more expensive the following year, can we carry forward the unused portion?
It
Or
goes
does that
right
get
back into the
reapproved?
general fund. It can only be used for the cruises. It goes right back into the general fund. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
Okay, well, just hoping.
No, yeah.
To me.
And we're just making a capital plan. So any of these expenses, I mean, you're going to have to do new warrants and go to the finance committee.
No, I realize.
Right. So this is just for planning purposes. You said earlier, I'm not to push back on the 110, but you'd said about maybe go up about 2,500 every 2 years. I don't know if I caught that right. So I don't know if really like FY25, maybe we jump to 103, FY27,
Well, that would be 2,500 per cruiser.
right. So 5,000 total. So it'll go 98 to 103 would be the 5K for FY25, and then FY27 you go up to 108.
I would just call it 105, 110, 115. Build a little bit of a bump in there because
That's fine. I think that's the same thing. It's good enough. Spread it out if you want. Yeah, spread it out. Yeah.
And again, we're just trying to guess what the number is going to be. Who knows? Once COVID's over and the chip shortage is gone, maybe the price stabilizes or even comes down a little bit. We don't know right now. So
Exactly. And again, next year we'll readjust our plan.
there we go, Joe.
We need to.
I have a sneaking suspicion we'll never see prices on any commodities come back down. I think that once you get them up there,
100%.
So,
All right,
All
so
right.
any more questions on the police cruisers?
no.
All right. So what happened with the roof?
So the nutshell version of the roof is the deputy had it pretty much ready to go in the fall. We were going to get it done. Doug Lapp decided he wanted to do it out of his office. He was a bit overwhelmed there for a while with COVID and everything else going on at town hall. So last we discussed it in October, maybe. He decided he was going to put it out for bid in early spring. I'm hoping anytime now, so that we'd have the bids in and it'd be ready to go as soon as the weather broke. So I have not had a conversation with him in the last 10 days, 2 weeks about it, because he was out with COVID and things. So I will reach out to Doug and find out where we are at with that. But it's in the works, and I can assure you that the deputy chief is not going to allow this to go into next fiscal year. we need to get that roof done.
And that was for the asphalt portion of the roof, correct?
That's correct.
I mean,
Now-
how much were you talking on the roof? I forget.
There was,
One,
this
120.
was this is the
120?
plan, right?
No.
This is the plan right here. Okay, so last year, there was $120,000 that was supposed to go for the asphalt portion of the roof. And then there was supposed to
That's
be an
correct.
article, I was expecting an article possibly this year for $160,000 for the extra, for the other section with the AC and the rubber roof. Are we not gonna do the AC and the rubber roof this year, or?
Well, I held
Okay.
off on it simply because we hadn't got part A done of the
Right.
two-part process, so.
He's gonna, I bet Doug's gonna turn it into an article because it's, he gets his little maintenance fund there, but that's not gonna cover your roof.
The 120 should cover. I think the
Yeah.
deputy had some numbers that we were ready to go, a while ago with this, but yeah, so
So do we wanna push the AC and the rubber roof out one more year? And do
I
that
think that's
next
probably
year?
the best bet because we want to get that main roof done first because that's where we're having, some of the leaks and, we've had to redo a couple of offices because of the leaks in that. And, if you stand back and take a good look at it, you'll see that there are problems with that roof. And, knock on wood, we've had a relatively snow-free year this winter. So we're keeping our fingers crossed. We're going to get through the winter without any major problems. So I think it's a bit much for the police department to come in and ask for, $280,000 out of the capital planning committee because we need a roof, we need an AC unit, we need a flat roof. So we're trying to do it one piece at a time.
Okay, so we'll take this 160 for the AC and the rubber roof, and we'll move that out. And I'm assuming with the cost of materials, that's actually gonna go up as we move it out.
Deb can probably speak better to that because he's talked with the contractors and the air conditioning unit supplier. So I don't know where we are with that.
I can only agree with that, the prices are definitely going to increase. The
Was
quotes
that
we had.
160? Was
Yeah,
that
that-
160 a reasonable estimate you got, John, or is it kind of a ballpark? When you gave it just the first time, I mean, it's gonna go up. Is it really gonna be that much more or less? Do you think?
I think in terms of the mechanical portion, as far as the HVAC goes, that's probably where we're going to see the increase because there's so many electrical components that go along with it and computer. It's going to be computer operated and so that's where we're going to see the big problem with the price increase. It's going to be on the HVAC rooftop unit. So we've actually spent quite a bit of money more this summer than we have in the past because we had a number of issues with it. But I think we can put Band-Aids on it and get it through another year with no problem at all. But there's going to be an increase to it.
We can work on that and get you guys a better number, if you'd like over the next month or so.
Okay, that'd be great. I'll leave it at the 160 for now in next year. And then we'll revisit it. And
Okay.
then the other question I had was, how's your parking lot? We were talking about that maybe you were gonna need some work done on the parking lot. And you were gonna talk to Mr. Taylor and see what the highway department could do and what you guys could do with your parking lot.
I'm not sure if the deputies had a chance to talk to him. I have not. It's definitely an issue. We're hoping to get it done. And Dave talks, that maybe we can come up with some grant funds or he has money that he can use for us. But I have not had a conversation with him recently about that. I don't know if you have, Jerry, or not.
No, I haven't. Maybe once last year we had an early conversation when we were talking about the repairs, but we've been able to patch it and just keep on going. But every year it's going to continue to just get worse. So
I wouldn't put that high on our priority list right now. Our priority has to be the roof in the HVAC unit. So
Right.
We will work with Dave and we'll get that submitted to you for next year for a number if he can't come up with a way to do it for us.
All right, I have it on there that we know that you guys need a parking lot
Yep,
and, you know,
I appreciate
any-
that.
is there anything else you guys need for the department?
You know what? We're actually in
That's
pretty good
expensive.
shape. We spent a lot of money over the years on the building itself to keep it up and, to maintain it and, the painting, the floors, the interior stuff that we can do, within our maintenance budgets and that sort of stuff. We do take a lot of pride in that building. If you come by and take a look at it, you realize now that it's 22 years old, it certainly does not look it. So we try to stay ahead of that the best we can. Obviously the big issues, the HVAC and the roof, parking lot, that kind of stuff, there's not a lot we can do with that other than keep it running the best we can. So the building itself is in pretty good shape. Our cruiser fleet's in pretty good shape. So, and as the deputy said, by going to the Holbrook Regional Dispatch Center, we got a complete upgrade on all of our radios, portable radios, in-house radios, cruiser radios, and laptop system got completely upgraded. I think we got close to $1 million worth of equipment by going there, as part of a grant from them. So, you know what?
That's awesome, right?
PD's in pretty good shape right now, and it's a lot of work through the deputy and myself to get there. So,
Well, that's great.
Thank you.
All right, does anybody else have any questions for either the deputy chief or the chief?
I'm all set.
Okay, can I have a motion to accept what they've requested to be put onto the plan?
I'll make a motion.
Can I have a second? Second by Bill. Okay, all those in favor, Bill?
Aye.
Joe?
Yeah, aye.
Chris/Kaylee?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
And myself. So that was unanimous. Thank you very much, chief. Thank you, deputy chief.
Thank you.
guys, appreciate your time and all your work on this stuff. Thank you.
All right,
All
thank
right.
you.
Have a great
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay, next on the agenda is the water department. All right, and let me pull this back and move this over here. All right, so PFAS treatment.
So just before I start, I have Crystal Cameron, the assistant superintendent, on this call also.
Hello, Crystal.
Just so everybody knows, not wondering.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
So as most of you should be aware of the PFAS 6 new regulations from the DEP. Currently, for the past year, we've been operating under a notice of non-compliance from the Department of Environmental Protection. They lowered the standard for PFAS 6, which is a forever chemical that's in everything, from 70 parts per trillion down to 20 parts per trillion. We're averaging over the 20, between 20 and 23 right now. So under the notice of non-compliance, we had to submit within 90 days a temporary plan for immediate fix. Then we have to submit a long-term plan, which we just submitted. The long-term plan is, right now, it's still up in the works. I talked to you earlier, Rich, about we probably gonna have to go back in and adjust this article. Just
Okay,
talk,
this is the one that might get adjusted.
correct. We're probably talking 13 million, which a matching amount from Abington. Right now, we're talking $26 million to upgrade the Hingham Street plant and the Myers Ave water treatment plant in Abington.
The 26, huh? Oof.
26 million. just to get a temporary treatment running at Hingham Street is 2 million. And then what it is we have to purchase 20-foot diameter by 12-foot high filter vessels.
Is it gonna work? Yeah.
It's definitely gonna work. We have a pilot program down at Myers Ave right now. We've been running for over a year, and it's taken everything out. We submitted the plan. DEP adjusted the plan and said, for the water we put out of Hingham Street and for the flows, we're gonna need 6 of these filters, which is gonna entail building a 100-foot long building by, we don't know how big yet. So we have applied for the state revolving fund SRF money, which we were notified we're in the top 30 and they usually give 30. They haven't given us the guarantee yet. It's supposed to be out by the end of the month. That's why this article's up in the air. The state revolving fund is a 0% interest loan. Also, they could loan you 20 million out of the 26 and give you 6 million as a grant. It's all up to them. The state just gave the DEP $200 million for these grants and the low interest loans. If we don't do it, DEP could shut down the street treatment plant or make us shut down the plant and we wouldn't be able to keep up with demand. So in order naturally to borrow this money, we're still fighting for grants. We received 3 grants so far. We received $199,000 grant that paid for the pilot study and the cost we put in down to Myers Ave treatment plant. We just received $132,000 grant for the reimburse us for the engineering and the preliminary treatment we try to do at Hingham Street Treatment Water Plant. We're still going to pursue grants. This is not a one-year project either, but we have to have this borrowing in place to tell DEP, yep, we have the borrowing available. We might not have to borrow the 26 million, it might come to 20 million, but this is the price right now that they're saying we have to go out for. If we get the 0% interest loans,
Yeah.
and 6 million, well, I'm just throwing that number out. I have no idea. Any little bit will help, but naturally the rates are going to go up. That's the only way we're going to pay for this. All my other capital requests are
Might be
coming up.
more than the rates. They're gonna be, no, I mean,
We have to pay for everything out of our income. The same with
Yeah.
our capital plans. We can't use any tax money or any town income. We pay for everything through water.
yeah, you're switching I'm on the finance committee. We're switching we'll be
Yeah.
consulting with them on it and,
Yeah,
it is what it is, huh? Oof.
yeah.
So,
And we're not the only ones in this boat. It's everybody. And, supposedly coming next fiscal year, DEP is going to have a lot more money. And they're concentrating on giving it to people that went out ahead and started the PFAS process. I've talked to Doug about the ARPA money. But the thing is, if we get 0% financing for this, I don't believe we can use the ARPA money also with it. Because we have other source of funding, they said.
I know
ARPA money's not going to put a dent in it,
I know you're just starting this process and you're kind of scrambling because it was a change and then it kind of created almost like an emergency situation where you just got to do something. Any sense at this point, based on the solution that's being proposed, like the lifetime of these types of filters, how long are they going to be good for before you have to, or annual maintenance or semi-annual maintenance, what does it look like after installation?
It's going to be a big cost. The filters themselves would be fine. You'd probably get 50 years out of a filter if you maintain it. The problem is the media inside the filter. So these are carbon filters. We have one running at Myers Ave. We get about 9 months out of the carbon. The filter's not even half the size of these, and it's $30,000 to replace the media.
Wow.
So you're gonna be figuring probably 250,000 a year just to replace media and the filters going forward. Naturally, the more you use the filter, the more the media is gonna expire quicker. It's just down the line that we're just, hopefully, we get a lot of free money and we don't have to borrow all the money. But right now, we have to have this avenue in place. DEP says, okay, they're moving forward. We have the avenue to borrow, if we have to. If we get awarded the money, I want to be able to borrow it at a special town meeting to get rolling. People want the water fixed, and this is what we're going to do to fix it.
I realize this is water over the bridge, as they say, but is this a New England thing or was this a nationwide thing? They moved the numbers from 70 down to 20.
Massachusetts lowered it.
Massachusetts.
Yeah, lowered it
Yep.
down to 20, but other states are following. New Hampshire's talking about lowering it to 0, which I don't know.
Going it to what?
0.
Oh, geez.
Holy smokes.
Yep.
Make
So
sense.
every state, as long as they're meeting the 70 parts per trillion standard with the EPA is happy with that. But every state, they're giving them the right to go ahead and drop their standard to what they feel is appropriate. So Massachusetts did 20, like Joe said. Some states are doing 5, some are 2, and some are 0. Some are staying at 70. So it's across the board, all over the place. This is brand new to DEP. When we started dealing with the regulation change, getting the paperwork in, getting the regulations understood and explained to us, and then getting the information out to the public, it was completely all over the place. And they were feeling it, we were feeling it. But getting back to the media, as Joe said, the idea is the way that we use our media now. Is, we trap particles inside the media and then we backwash it out. We clean the media and it comes out. The idea with the media that Joe was talking about, it's special where it traps it in there and it's supposed to stay in there because you want that hazardous material to stay there. And then once it's spent, you vac it out and then you replace it with new media. So you're looking at something like a replacement once a year, maybe even twice a year for each filter. Depending on how much it's used.
This isn't essential for the capital plan. This is my own curiosity, but what do they do with all that carbon that's filled with all this bad stuff? Where does that go?
So they have a process where they can regenerate it. So they can treat it with, I don't, specifically know what they do, but they can regenerate it and reuse it, which is great. Or some places incinerate it and completely trash it, get rid of it.
So
But
do you usually pay to have it destroyed,
Regenerated.
or do you make money by selling it?
yeah, I don't think we make money off of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think they
okay.
take it and they regenerate it and then they sell it back to other companies or to you. And it's definitely an interesting process.
Oh, I'm sure.
That's for sure. Yeah.
This would increase,
Okay.
right? As I'm looking at your checklist, would this increase?
What's that?
I'm just looking at the purpose of the expenditure. This would increase safety, right? Isn't that part of the idea?
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Suppose this is a silly question, but kind of like Doug, out of my own curiosity, are there over-the-counter filters that one could attach to their sink, under their sink, that would help address this kind of thing, or not really?
Joe, do you want me to take that or do you want
You're the expert on that.
to?
Yeah.
So
There
there
are.
are, but that's kind of a loaded question because DEP has recommended that we not recommend filters, but if you do your own research and like I have, you will find that they have definite options. It's just, you got to keep in mind that these filter companies are just out to make money like any other company is, and you need to read the fine print on the filter itself. So like we've been talking about before, the standard was 70. And now our standard's 20, and some of these companies are not from Massachusetts. So they, you could call them up and say, hey, company A, you're selling filters, you remove PFAS, and they'll say, sure, yeah, we remove PFAS, but to what level? So you need to really do your due diligence and get in there and read, the fine print on how much these filters reduce and to what level. And then you also have to maintain them yourself. So if it's an inline filter, you got to keep in mind, you got microbial growth in there. So you want to make sure that you're changing them out so that you're not getting yourself sick.
Right.
And then also there is also a Brita filter looking type option. I did see that myself as a customer, not a water department employee. But I did see that they do have a Brita filter option out there. You just would have to kind of Google it and take a look at it, but it's rather costly. I think it's about $75 for the pitcher itself and then $50 for the replacement cartridges. That was at quick glance, but there are things out there that you can find for sure.
Thank you.
Chris, we actually had one of those installed in my house, and one of the dilemmas is to the point that Crystal's making. The cost of trying to do a test, what your level is, both before and after. I'm just gonna have to trust this thing's doing what it's supposed to do because I'm not paying the thousands of dollars to find out whether there's water afterwards. So.
Absolutely, yeah, they're very expensive, and then you got to be careful on how you do the test yourself too, collecting the sample. It's PFAS, unfortunately, is in a lot of things that we use every day. Permanent macas, it's in, your fabric softener, or it was anyways, but you can never be too sure about, where your materials are coming from. If it's coming from out of the country, things aren't as regulated as they are in this country sometimes. So like if you're buying Teflon pans, you should always make sure that you're, reading that they're made in the US and not outside, because, they could still use PFAS in their products outside the US. So, but getting back to the sampling and like you said, with your own home sampling, you just got to be careful because, you can contaminate your own sample by accident, not even realizing because of what you're wearing, what you did, 10 minutes before that. So they recommend not showering for 3 days before you sample. Makeup, things like that can have it, all kinds of stuff. So it's definitely a volatile sample.
Well, Doug, maybe you and I can talk about that offline later.
Okay, before we get into the rest of your requests, I'd like to take a look at some of the ones from last year and
Sure.
make sure that we touch base on those and make sure we know which ones were done, are still in process, what
Yep. The
wasn't done, if something needs to be pushed out.
the dump truck's been bought.
Dump truck has been bought, okay, so that's all set.
Yeah, the backhoe's been, the lease payment on the backhoe, the 30s, that's been set.
Okay,
175 still in progress for the filter vessels at the bottom.
okay,
The treatment plant upgrades and the water plant infrastructure upgrades are still in progress. We're still doing work.
but you got that money at town meeting last year, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then the 40,000 and the 75,000 you got for the water meter replacements last year.
Yep.
Okay. And we have 50,000 for meter replacements this year, I see.
Yep, that's all coming out of water retained earnings.
And it's 50 for us and 50 for Abington. Is that how that works?
Every one of these is matched by Abington that I have in this year, except for the, I don't have the backhoe in there because it was under 50.
Then we have treatment plant upgrades.
That's another, we have that going out the 5 years. We're looking to do $100,000 a year out of water retained earnings just to keep the treatment plant. Upgrades of the treatment plant now,
That's the water plant infrastructure upgrades?
Yeah.
correct.
Okay,
Well, you have the meters there too for 50. I don't know if that was on the plan at 50 or I
It
thought
was.
a little higher. Oh, it was, okay.
Yeah, the first year was 75, I think.
20, this is the
I
year
know
right
it-
here, so we got
I know
the
it changed a little. Oh, I thought it was changing over each one or two. Oh, there's 75, yeah.
75 was
22.
last year, then 50 this year,
All
and
right,
this is the 100 for the infrastructure upgrades.
Yep.
And then next we have 150 for residual removal.
Yeah, this is the sludge that we produce. Anything we take out of the water goes out into a drying beds, lagoons, we call them, at each treatment plant. Unfortunately, we got to get rid of the residuals. We've been getting rid of them. The only place we could get rid of them was the landfill down in Bourne. They're using it to cap the landfill. The problem with that is they'd only take one roll-off dumpster a day, so it takes us forever to get rid of it.
I was gonna say, how long have you been
Yeah.
storing it down there?
Ongoing process. So right now, we just signed, we're working with our engineers. We applied to DEP for a different permit where there's a farm down in Berkeley that'll take it. And they do something with it, turn it into fertilizer, use it on the farm.
Yikes.
So what we're doing is designing a contract to do the whole Hingham Street residual, get rid of them all. We have 3 drying beds. Once one's full, we take it offline. It's got to dry for 6 months before we can even get near it to, start removing it. Right now,
This is a new thing then, that wasn't on the plan before.
nope.
Yeah.
So now this will be matched with the town of Abington. The project will hire it out for a company to come in.
300 grand, really? Wow.
Yeah. And the problem we're worried about right now is with the PFAS, are they gonna start testing for the PFAS in our residuals and tell us it's hazardous waste? And there's no way to get rid of it.
Yeah, then they start talking about having to incinerate it rather than getting rid of it, like Joe's telling you about landfills, farms, things like that. Then you have to incinerate it if PFAS is in it, and they'd only do that down south. So added cost to ship it out there is going to cost too.
I'm sure.
Our goal right now is to, with the 300,000, is to get it done now before they implement something,
Mm-hmm.
But this is going to be this is to deal with what you have now. It's going to be an ongoing thing because you're going to continue to pay.
Correct. Yep.
Correct. Yeah.
But unfortunately, they've let it go for a little while, so now we're kind of behind the 8 ball. We're behind where we should be. You should be getting rid of 2 of them a year, and we haven't been doing that.
So how do you describe your capacity in these 3 drying beds? Like how you can't touch it for 6 months. Like how does the cycle ideally work for you? Like how many years, months worth of sludge can you store?
Well,
Drying bed
those
sounds better.
lagoons, yeah, right. So we have 2. We actually have 2 sludge lagoons up front, and then we have 3 drying beds in the back. Those have been online since we put that project online in 2010, I believe. So was it 09?
11, I think.
11. So, we haven't cleaned out. We've only cleaned out one of them actually and moved it around really. So you can store a significant amount of sludge back there. And then the 2 lagoons up front, they haven't been touched for a while either. So there's a decent amount of capacity there.
Right now, there's not that much capacity. We have
Right.
2 that are drying, and the 2 out front, we want to eliminate so they can dry, so we can get rid of it.
Correct. Yeah.
is this 150 going to be an ongoing multi-year thing, or is this just this year?
This is a temporary plan. Like I said, we hired an engineer. We're trying to make a process where we have a yearly thing and we'll know what we're doing.
We're
Get
hoping
caught
it
up-
will be
get Caught up
less.
for now and then go
Yeah.
forward.
Correct. I'm sure it'll be less. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm assuming it'll be less if they determine it's hazardous waste. Who knows what it'll be?
Yeah.
Well, because if it's hazardous waste, then they can't feed the animals with it. That's for sure, right?
Oh gosh, I don't like thinking about these things.
Well, luckily, I mean, anything that we, possibly even remotely thought, possibly went out there that had PFAS in it at all, we've kept separate from the other lagoons. So, hopefully it's not going to be that much of a process at this point, as long as we can get rid of it, before they change the regulation again. So it shouldn't be that much of a process right now before so we can get ahead of it at this point.
One last quick thing. This is just for my own edification. So it sounds like we're treating the symptom. Is there a way to actually treat the issue and stop the production of PFAS?
No. The quick answer is no.
Okay, then.
Never
Yeah.
The issue
Gotta
is
go somewhere.
in the groundwater. And the good news is DEP is now starting to try to find out where the contamination is coming from. So originally we had our Myers Ave treatment plant. That was the first red flag that we had. We had a request, the town had a request from DEP to test waters in Rockland. They tested the stream on Spruce Street coming out of the air base, and the PFAS was over 250 coming out of the air base. So if DEP traces that back and decides that, yeah, this might be contaminating Myers Ave, we get all our money back from the government, but you're probably talking who knows how long. Hingham Street, we have a couple suspicions, maybe from Boston Whaler, where Home Depot is.
Right.
I'm sure they're gonna look into that. I think in the coming years, they're gonna really push to find out, where it's coming and who contaminated it. But you can't rely on that right now.
Right. And I think it would be more of like a mass cleanup type thing. If like they found out that it was like a Boston Whaler type situation, they would have to go there and do like a cleanup and actually get rid of it. So that's, again, bringing it back to the idea of the filters. There's no way to, make this go away besides us actually physically removing it from the water and getting rid of it. There's no way to like make it volatile and just blow up into the air. There is some things that do that in water. You can use aeration and it will, go up into the air and dissipate that way. But in this case, you physically have to take it out of the water. So if it's something that's there, present and eventually, will dissipate over time, a cleanup type situation would probably be great. But if it's something like coming from the airbase, like Joe was talking about, well, then they need to stop that and deal with that situation. But the fact that the DEP is even moving on this right now, and it's so early in the game, is, in my opinion, and I know Joe, she has a sentiment. It's a great thing to see them even remotely testing our water. So I think we're pretty excited about that. But fingers crossed. We'll see where it goes.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. So we've gone through all of the articles, and this is what we had talked about last year. Now, we had the 50,000 for the meter replacements. That's on your capital request form. The 40,000 continuation of the bond for the water main road repairs. The 100,000 that is there for the plant infrastructure upgrades.
Yeah. I think we're all set with that 40,000.
Okay. And then you had 150,000, you said there was going to be 150,000 this year in 2023 for geotube storage.
Yep, that's basically what we were gonna put the sludge in, but now we've gone to the article that I just put in for the,
So that's gonna be the removal instead of the GO2 storage.
correct.
Okay, so I'm gonna, what I'm gonna do then is I'm gonna take this line that I just added for removal. I'm gonna that there, and I'm just gonna get rid of this line.
Sounds like a better solution based on that, because it sounds like the other option was going to be how to store it on site and just
Mhm.
call the day, and now we're figuring out where to get rid of it.
I personally
Right.
like the wording removal better than storage.
Right.
You can
Yeah,
only
the
store it
then-
once.
the geo tubes, you pump it into these big tube sock type things, and then the water seeps out of it slowly, and then it dries inside the geo tube, and then you have to get in and break it open and scoop it out and send it out. So it dries on site, and it's, this option's better.
Now, you also talked about $250,000 for treatment plant residual separators.
Yep, that's gonna be pushed out. That's gonna be our long-term solution to the residual problem.
Okay, so where do we want to push that out to?
I'd say 25 anyways. A lot of this might even, this is was our original capital plan. We didn't know what PFAS is gonna be thrown in our lap. So
Right.
who knows what we're gonna have down the line,
But that is more or less like, something that will keep us from having to deal with this big, surplus.
Bro. Like we lost her.
Yep. The wonders of Zoom.
Yep.
And what I did was I continued your meter replacements for the 50,000 into 2027,
Yep.
going out the 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else you can think of that later on you're going to need?
Not really. I think the main problem is gonna be the PFAS. And we're really blind on that right now. So we're hoping the borrowing is gonna cover everything for now, but then you're gonna get back into what we talked about earlier, the maintenance of the filters and the replacement. That's probably gonna be on there as an ongoing thing.
I thought the replacement of the water tanks was because expensive at 3 million, but
Yeah, now
15
that's up
million.
to, now that's up to 6. So we started this researching these filter vessels for the PFAS in July, and we were told $150,000 a filter. Now it's over 300,000 a filter, they're saying. Number one, it's supply and demand. Number two, they can't get the steel. They're gonna use every excuse they have, so.
Is there any movement on those water storage tanks, or what direction you're going to go? Or is that still sitting as a potential FY24?
That'll probably be put back. If we have to borrow all this money for the PFAS, I don't want to keep borrowing and just keep raising rates. We might shift to refurbish one tank at a time just to get by. That's something for the board to decide, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Rich, can you shift the schedule left a little bit so I can see the name?
So should we push out then these water tanks at least a little further? Because if that's
Thanks.
the direction you're going to end up going, you're not going to spend 3 million in FY24 if that's the direction you're going to go.
No, I'd say at least 25, 26.
Mhm.
So we'll put it in 25 for now.
Yep.
And then next year when we meet, we'll figure out where we are with the PFAS and
Always
from there.
adjusting. Yep.
So when I talk to Doug tomorrow, maybe tomorrow, I don't know if he'll be around on Monday. I'm gonna talk to him about increasing that 12 to 13. I see you already increased it to 13, so at least
Yeah.
it's on capital plan.
based on what you said, I put it at 13 and then you can just
Yeah.
let Doug know.
I have to do the same with Abington because I've already turned articles in there too, so. We might be able to spread we don't know how much. It's probably a 2-year project, so you're not gonna borrow the whole 13 million the first year, but I think we're really favorable of getting the SRF money. So if we're getting 0% interest, we might as well do the whole thing. What I'm saying. That's my clock, don't mind it.
Does anybody have any other questions for either Joe or Crystal?
No, but thank you for all the sidebars.
Yeah,
Sure. What's good
Yeah,
is that
you-
they are
you-
saying that the PFAS projects are, leaning more towards the 0%. So we're just hoping for that.
and
That's for
then
sure. For the
they're talking
SRF.
next year, the EPA, the federal government is gonna push a lot of PFAS money out there, reimburse money for what we spent. We're pursuing every avenue to keep, naturally get as much free money as we can, so.
But whatever you don't get in free money that ends up becoming a loan, that's gonna have to be passed on to customers, right?
Absolutely. Yep. Yep, there's no way around that, and, I don't wanna
Yeah.
sugarcoat it that the rates are not gonna go up.
Customers ain't gonna be happy.
Oh, but, I mean, we did a rate study back in 2014, and it was 5 years out. In 2019, the rate study said we should be at over $8 a 100 cubic feet. We're at 5 right now. It's 2022. Your rates are supposed to cover your capital projects and your budget, but in theory, but I do that. I'm a ratepayer myself, so I don't want to raise the rates.
No, and I mean, the customers aren't happy now either, with the issue with the water. So rather fix the problem.
Yeah, I mean, I
That's what I
think,
mean. They want the problem fixed, but they don't want to pay for it.
Right. Yep.
What are you gonna do? Yeah.
We had a major problem in my hometown, and eventually, everybody kind of came around and said, this needs to be addressed, and we'll get behind the water department. We're just hoping that
Yeah.
we get
Like,
the
if we
same
don't do it
sentiment.
ourselves,
but-
it ain't gonna get done.
Right.
I have a question. There's quite a disparity between the federal standard of 70 and the
Mhm.
local one down to 20. What is the real, or is there any documented real significant public health issues related to that?
well, the government puts it at 70, so that's their rate. And, the public health issues that, you consume it over 75 years, you might be, you probably be affected, maybe that, I don't think the research is there to back it up. You might know a
I'm,
little bit.
I'm surprised at the disparity, 70 and you say we're at 20 in Massachusetts, and other states are either that or less.
Well, that's
Yep.
why I
Right.
asked, that's why I asked what the real problem is, health-wise. Was it risk of cancer?
Yeah, it's
Oh.
a risk of that. It's a risk of issues with your kidneys, liver, things like that. Issues, affecting pregnant women and children. But it is.
Has all of that been documented?
I believe it has. This is all just information that we're being told from the state and EPA, but it's all over the map. And it's because this is brand new, and they've moved so fast on this. They were, personally, in my opinion, I feel as though they didn't think that there were going to be so many communities that were going to have issues with this. I think that they were thinking that things were going to be more of a hotspot situation, like around industry, airbase, things like that. And now they're finding that it's more, it's more prevalent than they realized. And so a lot of data started rolling in, and a lot of places started having problems. And I think DEP was just like, whoa, we didn't expect this. But, as far as health, effects goes, it's definitely something that they're worried about. They don't move on things as fast. So, it's definitely a
you said that
concern, but
You said that the limit is 20, and
mhm.
Rockland Abington is at 23.
So the way that they calculate, so just keep in mind that this is more of a bioaccumulation in your body over time. So that's the way that the state is looking at it. It's not something like I try to explain to the customers that call, which we've gotten quite a few, and I've spoken to a lot of people. It's not something like a bacteria event where you drink the water, you might get sick instantly because of the water being, not right. Which thankfully, we don't have that issue, but PFAS is more of a bioaccumulation in your body over time where, like Joe said, down the road, maybe 70, 80 years down the road, you might have a problem with X, Y, and Z. But what was your question again?
It was the fact that, the level was 70, it
Mhm.
was moved down to 20, and
Right.
I think you guys said we were at 23.
Right. So the
23 doesn't seem to be that far away from 20.
Right. So the way that they look at it is it's a quarterly average. So we're going to take October, November, December, you average those 3 samples together, and that's your Q4 results for PFAS. If you're over 20, doesn't matter if it's 20.2, 20.7, it's over, they consider it a violation. To us, you, me, Joe, all of us, we might say, oh, it's just a smidge. It makes you feel a tiny bit better, but it's still considered a violation. We still have to recognize it and we still have to take care of it. Eventually, the way that our industry works is something's always changing as far as regulations goes. You get comfortable with something else changes. So I'm not going to get comfortable with, absolutely. I'm not going to get comfortable with PFAS being at 20. So we're going to strive for the best. Right now, our Myers Ave water treatment plant with the treatment that we have, we get 0, we get none detected. And that's the same treatment that we plan on putting at Hingham Street. So, over time, yeah, it does start breaking through a tiny bit, but you never get over 10 parts per trillion before it goes out. Then you then you regenerate the media, you take it out. So it's well within regulations with that plan, with that plant and that design. And that's what we're looking for. So, we know what works and we're going to implement it. It's going to be good.
Are different sections of town served by different plants or?
Yes. Yep. So the way that this works with DEP is they're covering themselves by not allowing us to send out just, flyers and letters with the being over the limit to just the customers that we believe get the water. And that we know get the water. There's people we're sending it to customers in Abington that we know don't get the water, but because DEP says we have to. And it's because we have what's called an interconnected system where we have one treatment plant over in Rockland, one over in Pembroke, and one over in Myers Ave in Abington, where they all pump into the same system. And any one given moment, if you had a water main break over, say, on Hingham Street in Rockland, it can change the directionality of the flow and the hydraulics in the pipes, and you can change the water that you're getting from one treatment plant to another. So just because we don't have it gated off inside in the pipes in the street, they won't let us just send, just because of that what if that you might never ever get it, but because of that if, they say nope, you have to send those letters to everybody. So Hingham Street, to make a long story longer, Hingham Street water does stay very local to that treatment plant. So you're talking Pond Street area, VFW Drive, down Hingham Street, all of that area. That's really where the water treatment plant goes. We've done a hydraulic model that demonstrates that. So, there are definitely certain parts of town that just get that water.
So DEP is making us give water to vulnerable people, have water available for vulnerable people.
Mm-hmm.
So we tested the water at our shop, which is fed on 366 Center Ave, is fed by Myers Ave and Pembroke Treatment Plant. And the PFAS is averaging under 5 there, usually around 5 down to 3.
Mm-hmm.
We just have a spigot they allow us to have a spigot. We're given the same water that we're giving to the customers, and it's well under the PFAS. Once the water gets out in the system, they call it blending. It blends with the clean water and it brings it down below the 20. So in our opinion, we're probably down below the 20 in 99% of the houses, but DEP saying we're over, and that's the regulation we have to follow. It's when it leaves the plant, not when it gets to your house. You know,
So the water that we pump out in Pembroke comes down up Beach Hill and down into the center. It goes down Summer Street on both ways and right into Abington, and it feeds that. And that treatment plant is what feeds our office on 366 Center. And that's the PFAS is, below 5 usually coming out of that treatment plant. And that's a naturally, like, we're not doing any treatment over there. That's naturally there like that. So DEP is happy with that. We've proven that, time and time again, it's still that water. It's always that water. So we know hydraulically the water flows that way. So we are able to provide water to the customers, like Joe said, at the office from our treatment plant, which was great. It kept costs down for the project. Waste, if some water departments are doing bottled water, I mean, you're creating a lot of waste. It's costing the department a lot of money, and eventually that's going to turn down, towards the customer and end up, being a rate increase to having to, take on that cost. So we figured, if we have a treatment plant that's putting out great water over in Pembroke, why not use that instead? And we had a way to figure it out. So they accepted it, thankfully. So.
Well, that sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have any other questions for Joe or Crystal? Okay, hearing none. Can I have a motion to accept the requests for their capital plan to be put onto the plan for this year?
So moved.
And a second?
Second,
And all in favor, Bill,
Hi.
Doug,
Aye.
Joe,
He left the room.
aye.
and Chris. Joe, is that a yes?
Joe's
Sorry,
not.
I forgot I was muted.
And I'm a yes as well. Okay. Thank you
I'm
very much,
listening. I was the
Joe.
other
Thank
side
you
of the
very
room.
much, Crystal. Appreciate all of the very interesting water knowledge.
all right.
Good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right.
It was nice meeting
Have a
you
good night.
guys. Thank you very
All right,
much.
nice to meet you as well.
Have a good night.
You too.
Oh, no.
Okay, so we've met with the water department, we've met with the sewer department, we've met with the highway department, we've met with the police, and we met with fire. So I'm going to reach out to the park department, which I don't think they really had much. The Board of Health and see if anybody is available for a meeting next week. What
Let me know what Delhi says up at the Board of Health, and when you hear Rich, because I'm the liaison for the finance, and I gotta meet with her anyway at some point and go over the same stuff. Plus her budget.
the question that I have, what was I gonna say? Oh, the question that Bill raised to me was about meeting in person. When would you guys like to start to meet in person again?
When you guys feel comfortable.
If we use the big, as long
I
as we're
don't
using
wo-
the big conference room and spread out a little bit, I mean, we're fine.
I'm not working in the office anymore until I guess I heard the latest I heard now is March. So
I'm vaccinated, boosted, flu shot. I got it all, and I've been working 7 days a week at both my jobs, not from home. So I've been on the job, literally.
well, I mean, I was going in 3
And
days
knock
a
on
week.
wood, nobody in my family's gotten it, so.
I was going in 3 days a week, and now I can work from home, so I only go in 1 day a week or whenever I need to.
Well,
But
I track and watch the cases and the positivity rates and all that stuff every day. We're responsible at the place that I work, so I'm always paying attention to these things.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to see it come down just a little bit more before we jump back in, knowing
Going
that
to work.
we can do this work the way that we're doing just fine. So, but I agree. I'd like to.
Both my jobs are considered essential, yeah.
so my suggestion was that we look at it maybe sometime towards the February timeframe, that we can look at it maybe in February, see how the next week or 2 weeks go, and with the cases and the number of cases, because they say that things are starting to track downward again. And if they continue on that track, perhaps in a couple of weeks, we could start to meet, in person again at the town hall. So,
Okay, sounds good.
I agree with that, Rich.
I mean,
Okay.
at the end of the day, I want everybody to be
Good.
safe. I just kind of like being in person is all.
Yeah.
I like being
No,
in
it's
person
fun.
too. I'm not a big fan of the masks, which we will have to wear in town hall, but that's just part of life these days, which you got to do. So
It's
But
funny, I've been
lots of light
noticing
now.
more and more people wearing them.
So there's a lot of discussion about which mask you wear as well. So that's evolved recently.
Yeah, the
yes,
case.
it is. So I don't believe I have any other new business for the committee. Does anybody else have anything that they'd like to raise or questions?
No, I think we're moving along pretty quickly here and getting this
I did
updated.
reach out to my friend that's on the capital planning committee of another town.
Yeah,
And how they doing?
I think he's frozen.
I did reach out to a friend of mine that's on the capital planning committee of another town, and the chairperson of that committee, and they said that the way that we do the ranking is more sophisticated than the way they do it.
We're sophisticated, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
interesting.
So
I did some research myself. I started just like Googling for templates that other people had just to see what was out there. And wow, there's a wide range of options out there. So I was gonna try to see if I could find one or two that
two
really
that weren't too crazy. Yeah, some of them go crazy. That's what I was telling you from that seminar we went to at Bridgewater. I was amazed at the range of between some of the towns. Of some are worse than ours, and some are like way ahead.
So if
right.
there is no other business, can I have a motion to adjourn?
hold on, one more thing, Rich.
Yes.
I don't know why I didn't notice this, but on Jeff's minutes, I think the date of the meeting was wrong. I think his minutes said like March 18th, 2021, but it was last week, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I think that needs to be changed. I don't know if we can, I don't.
Good
the minutes
catch.
were fine, except the date was wrong.
I didn't even get a chance to read Jeff's email where he sent the minutes, and I'd have a chance to read them. And
Yeah, he did send the minutes, and I guess we all missed that. So
I realized I saw them. I just didn't have a chance to read them. I was so busy. I was running late for this meeting.
all right, so we approved the minutes, but why don't we make a motion to modify the date on the minutes to reflect that the date was actually last Thursday, which was the 13th, I think. 13th of January, 2022, not 2021. He probably just
One day.
used the date that he had finished writing them or editing them. So if I can have a motion to modify the date on those minutes, I will modify that date before I send them in.
All right, so I
Can't
make a motion
remember if I
to
was
change
there.
the date from March 18th to 2021 to January 13th, 2022. And otherwise, the minutes are fine.
Seconded.
Okay, all in favor, Bill?
I,
Joe?
I don't know if I was there, was it, at that meeting?
It was last week, Joe.
last week.
Yeah, yeah,
You
all
were
right,
there.
yeah, all right. Yeah, Jeff was on mute the whole time, most of it doing taxes. All right. Aye.
Aye.
Chris? And Doug?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. All right, so now, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to
Motion to
adjourn.
adjourn.
Second?
Seconded.
All right, let's go the other way this time. Doug?
Approved. I mean, aye.
Chris?
Aye,
Aye.
Joe?
aye.
And Bill?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Thank you very much for attending the January 20th meeting of the Capital Planning Committee. And we will talk to you next week.
Excellent.
night.
Have a good
Good
weekend,
night.
Elmo.
Hey, take it easy.